Okay, so let's talk about how to create realistic glass for architectural renderings. Creating realistic glass is fairly easy. You really need to just put in a few little details. You see here, you got some noise going on here. You don't want to have everything perfect. You want to have a little bit of waviness going on. Okay, so we have these references here, and if you look here, you can see, the reflection here is not straight. It's curved, it's off. It doesn't go in a straight line here, even though the building's straight. Here the reflection isn't straight either, it's curved as well. So, you want to take this into account, and you can do this, you can build this into the maps. And all of these references you'll see are the same. Here, these windows, they look odd to you, but the reason for that is because, there'd be a lot of bump going on here. It's reflecting this building, and, if you look here, there's no straight reflections here going on. Here, really obvious here. And you can mimic this in V-Ray with a bump map. So the other thing, with this glass to look at is here you can see into the building quite easily. You can see desks, you can see things going on. And yet here, this type of glass is highly, highly reflective. And again here, you can see this line here, we have the reference here, it's dead straight. Well, not dead straight, but pretty straight. And here it's curving all over the place. So that's what we need to mimic. That's what we're going to be doing. And it's very easy to do in V-Ray. You can see here I've done it. This cloud doesn't smoothly go across. So I'll show you what I've done. To start with is your geometry. So if you don't get your geometry correct, you're not going to be able to do this. So what you want to do is, I've put this all in a group, but if I open this up, if I select just the glass, I press Alt-Q just to isolate this. Now, what I did, I just created this for this, right? So I created an arc, a spline. I went in here and I came in. I went in here and I clicked on arc, and I went in top view and just did 2 lines and just create an arc like that. Now, what I then did was I extruded it. I extruded up the height of one window, which for me was 2.5 meters. So I put an extrude on, and then I put on an edit poly. And what I did with the edit poly is I took this and I went tools, array, and I did about 10 of them. And preview, and I pushed these up. I pushed these up 2,500. And by doing this, I could then select the lower one, put an edit poly on, and attach all of the upper ones. So that's all this edit poly here does, is puts those on, and then you come in, you select one, you click on attach, and you select all of them. Then I put a symmetry modifier on, and I moved it around so I'd get this. And you see it almost touches, but doesn't quite touch in the ends. It's off by a couple of mil or something. So that's my symmetry modifier. Oh, and the other thing which I did with edit poly, sorry, before I pulled them up, was I went into 4, and I selected these, and I clicked attach. And I selected the next 4, detach, the next 4. These were going to be my individual windows. You could also do it this way. You could just select those 4, and then select these 4. And basically you detach them. What you need is you need to have your windows as individual elements. If you've got a flat building, it's easier because you can just do a single pane. You don't need to have these different segments on, but this is a curved building. Okay, and then you can just attach those. And then, woohoo, reattach them. And then, like I did before, you come here, Tools, Array, Preview. Because I changed, see how the Y changed to going up? So I just pressed F to go in front view, and then that's how it changed it around. Just click OK. And I'm just going to make it unique because it won't attach to instances. And then I'm just going to attach these. So the next thing here is we want to go into Element, and you can just select all of them. And the important thing to realize here is that these are individual elements now. Each one of these is an individual element. Go to Polygon, click here on the bevel, and then really what we're going to be doing is you leave the height at 0 and bring the outline in. You can just go -1. It's going to bring it in by 1 or 2 mil. And then make sure you come here. You see, and this is group normals or local normals. If you go group, that stayed. Okay. You don't want to go by polygon, because then you're going to get it by that. You don't want to have it by everyone. So make sure put it on, oops, local is good. And then click OK, and then Control I, and it selects all the outside edges and just delete those out. And it gives us a 2 mil gap, which you're not going to see. I mean, you could make it 0.5 or 0.3 mil if you wanted, but the point is we just want to get this gap going. We want a gap here, and you're not going to notice it at this range, how big that is. All right, and that's what this edit poly did. So I'm going to delete this out now and put this back on. And you'll see that's exactly what's going on here. And I did a symmetry. And like I said, I had to come in and manipulate and just move that just so I had it like this. But this is just how I made this model, okay? And then I put on a material by element, and this is the key, one of the key points here, and that's why we split all of these up. And that's why we have all of these as different elements. And the shell, to be honest, could be under this or over it. It doesn't really matter. And I did random distribution 6, and I just left it at that. And if you want to see what that material by element has done, I've just got an Alt-Q to isolate this again. When I keep spinning, all I'm doing is pressing Alt and pushing my middle mouse button and spinning around. That's all I'm doing here. And Alt-W makes this full screen. So here's my material, and if I get a V-Ray material here and assign it, I'm in wireframe mode. Press F3 and come out of that. Okay. And this shell, I just put it to 30 mil to give us some 30 mil glass. All right. Now, really we want the glass, and if you right-click on here, now we've got it assigned. You can just go. There's various ways of doing this. I always right-click, but you can also just pull this over. Materials, V-Ray, Materials, General, and multi-sub-object. Put it into 1. And if we assign this now, you can see, because we did the material by element, if I turn that off, probably everything's 3. If you turn it off, it likes 3 for some reason. But with the material by element, you can see it's randomly doing 6 different IDs. And you can plug this in, you can see where they all are. And it's just randomly assign them. So what we're going to do is just make a glass. And to do this, I take the diffuse, make that black, and take my reflection and turn that all the way up. Leave my reflective glossiness at 1. I like to leave for now on. You can click on these if you want to see what's happening with your glass or with your material. Click on refraction, turn that all the way up. And we're going to turn on reflect on backside, but we'll do that at a later stage just so you can see the difference. Well, we can do it now, and then we can turn it off and you can see the difference later. But you can immediately see here when I turn it off, there's a difference just in this little render window. What reflect on backside does is imagine you have a chair. There's no point in V-Ray calculating reflections on the back of the chair. You know, if the camera's facing the front of the chair, you don't need to look at reflections on the back. So V-Ray doesn't calculate them. And what this does is it says, okay, calculate the reflections on the back of this material. So now V-Ray is going to calculate those. But you have to tell it to do that because it's turned off by default to speed things up, to speed up the render process. So that's all that does. Now the key thing here, if you assign this to the whole thing, and just press F4 just so you can see it's there. And if I come in here, and I like to, for default, this is like my production rendering, but if I'm just going to be testing, I'll change this to progressive, and I'll come into GI, and I'll leave this like this, and oh, that's a 500. I like 500 for tests, and I like 2000 for production, but 1000 is good, 1200 is good. If I'm in a rush, 500 is okay, but this is good. I'm gonna turn off the saving, and yeah, I didn't bother with any render elements. Okay, so you can see what's happening here. And what's occurring is, because these are individual elements, they've individually got smooth on, and there's this little gap. There's a slight difference here in the reflection. And that's kind of cool. So this is as opposed to if this was left as a solid wall of glass. So we've already got this happening. Now I'm going to stop this. And the next thing which you want to add in here is a noise map. And if you just go noise and plug that straight into your bump, that's set at 30, and then you render, you get this, which is generally a mess. Looks pretty cool, but it looks like wild kind of glass. So normally what you'll do is come in here to this bump, and you're probably going to turn this down as low as maybe 0.5. If we try 1, see what we have. You can see it here. You see these? This is the noise. See this here? See this warbling kind of stuff? This is the noise. If I turn this up higher, if I make it 5, you'll see, like, if you pay attention to these little bumps, these are all going to stay exactly the same, but just increase. See? If I come down to 3. So the two things we need to get is this bump size correct. Okay, like, what is the amount of the bump, but also the size, because this is too small. If you look back at the references, you see you just had this slight curvature here on the edge. So with this one here, maybe you need a higher bump if this is what you're trying to get. But I don't think you're ever going to try and get glass looking like this. This looks like tinfoil. I don't think you're ever going to want something that crazy in a render. But if you do, you just push that bump up. So we want to increase the size here, so just come in here. Normally I'm going to go to about 2000. Now bear in mind here, if your size is coming in different than this, you're going to want to go to customize unit setup. And in here you're going to want to, I'm using millimeters, but you can use any size you want here. But make sure this is set. This is your display unit scale, and you have your system unit set up as well. So set this to 1 unit equals 1, and I'm working in millimeters, but if you're working something else, that's fine. But if you do, your scale is going to come in differently. For millimeters, I use 2000. So if I was using centimeters, I'd probably use 200. Because it's 2000 units, right? And so 2000, millimeters is 2 meters. So you can immediately see the difference here. And now this is slight. This is a bit, it's occurring, but it's not as obvious. So I'm just going to stop this. And then this bump, we can leave it at 3, or we can bring it down to 2, or bring it down to 1. You can see what it's doing to the cloud here and to this. So I'm going to leave it here at 2. I might push it up to 3. Actually, I'm going to put it back to 3 just to help us see what's happening. But if I was rendering for production, I would definitely leave it at 2, or maybe even lower. So I want you guys to be able to really clearly see it. Now, one other thing I want to show is here. I'm just going to do a little region on this edge where you can really see it. Now, this is what I was saying earlier about this glass and reflection on black backside. So if I render this, you see how you just get this one reflection occurring? And you can see the curve clearly from the bump. Now if I click on reflect on backside, and if I just do part of this, you see there's two reflections now. There's this and this. There's another one happening here, and there's this. So you can clearly see there's two reflections. So that's what I'm saying. It's reflecting on the backside as well as the front. But the render time is going to increase, but it's going to look better. So you don't have to do it, but you should know it's there and know what it does. Alright, so you want to see how reflective this is. And I always set my reflective glossiness to glass to 1. If you want to make it, more reflective, I would just unlock the Fresnel here and just push this up. And you can put it up to whatever you like, but 10 is going to be really metallic. 3 is probably overdoing it, but it depends on how reflective you want this to be, okay? And of course you can go the other way and put it down to 1 if you like. So you decide how reflective you want it to be. 1.6 here, that's the default. And I'll normally leave it at the default of 1.6, but sometimes I push it to 2 or 2.5, or I may push it up to 3. But that's for you to decide, and you look at it and you think, how much do you want to see through the item, and how much do you want to reflect the environment? Because the more you push this up, the more reflection of the environment you're going to see instead of through the item. So you just decide that and adjust that. There's no right or wrong way to do it, in the past, for water, I've just had it non-refractive and just made it completely reflective like chrome. So you have to decide, what do you think looks correct for the render which you're doing. So now I've gone over those points. I'm just going to assign this again, and then I'll take these two, bring these down, and I'm just going to make, oops, oh god, okay. What I'm going to do, we're just pressing shift and dragging, and that gives me 4 of those. And I'm just going to put these in here. I just changed the sensitivity of my mouse. And I find it so much harder. Alright, so that's all of them on there. Now, if you'd, on your material by element, if you'd made that more than 6, like, I don't know, if you made it 8 or 10, you'd need to move 8 or 10 of these. So you can keep going as high as you want. But for me, I think 6 is normally fine. And I'm just selecting that and then pressing C, and that lays everything out. Layout children. That's what that does. You might want to check if it's not working. Check if you've got caps lock pressed or shift lock. Sorry, or num lock or scroll lock. Just check those are correct if it's not working. So the next thing to do here, now that we've done this, we've just duplicated all of these. So this is going to give us exactly the same render as before, because these noise maps are exactly the same. So the next thing is you need to change them. And you can change them in various ways. You can either come in here and change the size if you like, or you can click on here. And this doesn't have a phase. If you use Birkin noise, you can just change the phase. If you have a Birkin noise, if I set this to 2000, you can see what it's doing there. So it's called a seed. So this seed here you can change. And even though it's not changing here, it is changing by changing this. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to take this noise, and we're just going to change it slightly. So this first one here was set to 2000. This next one here, I'm going to make this 1800. Make this one 2200. make this 17, make this 3000, make this 25. And then maybe, maybe you want to come in here to some of these and push this bump up a bit, make that 4. Let's make this 3.5. Let's make this 2. So we're just adding some variety, some slight variety in there. And by doing that, when you render it out, you start getting this, where these don't match up anymore. And that's really all there is to it. You see here? And this is why I say probably the bump at 3 or 4 is too high. You can leave it there. I don't particularly like that. For production, what I would do is I'd have this come in and I'd do maximum 1, and I might do some of these 0.5. And I might, well, I'll leave that one at 2. Make this at 1.5. See, 4 is just way too much. Even 2, so I'll often set my glass at 0.5. And here you can see you're still getting all this distortion in the edge, which is why I come down so low. But in terms of this, and in reality some of them do seem to match up. You see, but you can see here, these are not matching up at all. So you just play with that bump until you get it to something which you would like. If you go back to my earlier glass, this is the one I actually have on there. On these I also changed the IOR to 1.1, so it doesn't distort as much. And I made my Fresnel at 3 that I was going over earlier. And that's just so it reflects more of the environment. And I'm going to put my bump out on this. 1. Everything has the same bump on this. I remember that. So that's it. That's really all there is to it. So you can take a look at this and adjust this. If you want to make it like the other one I did just there, take this Fresnel, make this 3. Make sure your reflect on backside is on. And I set this IOR to 1.1. But that's it. Just decide how reflective you want it. Don't be stuck. There's only one way to do it. That's not true. But this will give you a simple idea of how to create a wall of glass which looks photorealistic. Alright, good luck. Hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to upload the files for this on my website, so you can pay a small amount and download them there if you want. The HDRI I got from these guys, HDRI Skies. I'll put a link for where it's from. But we bought these in the office. We bought, I think, pack 13. And I'll link to exactly what it is, but you can, which one of these it is. But you can download. One of the cool things about their website is they let you have a free, really small resolution on it. So you'll be able to download this exact HDRI from this resolution. I won't put it in my file on my website if you want to get it there. But you can download it from this website, and I'll put the link below in the description. Alright, here's subscribe. See you in the next one.